I found my fiancée passed out drunk at a college house party. That same night, a video hit my phone, her dancing half-naked between two guys, then following them into a bedroom. When I asked the host what happened before she passed out, he said, "I always thought the worst kind of night was the one where something slowly goes wrong. The kind that drips dread little by little." Turns out I was wrong. The worst night is the one that flips from normal to catastrophic in a single breath, like someone tore a hole in the floor under your feet and didn't bother warning you. That was the night I walked into a college house party I wasn't supposed to be at, looking for my fiancé, Ariel, who wasn't supposed to be there either. The situation was clear enough. Ariel had told me she was out with 3 co-workers for a quiet dinner. A small place near campus, nothing dramatic, nothing suspicious. She even sent a quick picture of a bowl of ramen and a half-crooked smile. I didn't need to question it. We'd been together for 3 years. Trust wasn't something I had to negotiate with her. At least, it used to be that way. The bet came when her location blinked off. Not once. Not twice. 3 times in 20 minutes. She blamed it on battery saver mode earlier that week, so I tried to force myself not to think about it. But when I called to check in, the call went straight to voicemail. 5 times. And when her best friend Mira texted me something that felt too rehearsed, "We're all good. She's with us." I finally asked the only question that mattered that night. If she was with them, why did Mira sound like she was distracted and out of breath? That was enough to get me in my car at 11 at night and drive toward the one part of town Ariel always claimed she hated, the frat street near the university. The road was flooded with people who looked like they'd been marinating in cheap beer and bad decisions for hours. Music bounced between houses, each one competing to see who could shake the windows harder. The house I stopped in front of wasn't even well lit. Just a strand of Christmas lights hanging like someone gave up halfway. But her location had pinged there briefly before dying completely. And her coworker Coral, who wasn't supposed to be anywhere near a college party, had posted a blurry Instagram story with a suspiciously familiar couch in the background. I recognized the couch because Ariel used to complain about that exact pattern on her friend Nina's old place. A tacky geometric fabric that looked like someone designed it while drunk. The door wasn't even fully closed. I pushed inside and felt a blast of sweat-thick air hit me. The smell of stale beer, cheap perfume, and something burnt clung to the walls. People were packed everywhere, staircases, kitchen counters, even on top of old speakers. Eyes darted toward me as I stepped through the living room. Not because I looked threatening, but because I looked sober. Sober people are suspicious in houses like these. I didn't yell her name. I didn't push people aside. I just walked with purpose. When you're looking for the person you're supposed to marry, your body feels wired in a way that doesn't need noise. That's when I saw her. Passed out. On that exact ugly couch. One shoe missing. Hair stuck to her cheek. Dress rucked up in a way she'd never allow if she were conscious. And the worst part, not a single one of the 3 co-workers she claimed to be with was anywhere near her. My stomach didn't sink. It dropped like it was trying to punch through the floor. 2 guys on beanbags next to the couch were watching something on one of their phones and laughing. The volume wasn't high, but I could hear music in the background. And someone yelling encouragement. Then my own heart stopped for a beat, because in the video they were watching, I recognized the dress before I recognized the person wearing it. It was Ariel, dancing, stumbling, half lifting the bottom of her dress as she rocked between 2 guys I'd never seen before. The room in the video matched the hallway I'd just walked through. The lighting wasn't forgiving. Nobody looked like they were being subtle. And after 30 seconds of dancing, she followed the 2 guys toward a closed door like she was part of a routine she'd repeated 100 times. I didn't ask the guys to hand over the phone. They weren't the type to cooperate. They looked at me like I was interrupting a movie. One of them even tried to turn the screen away, as if he was doing me a favor. The host of the party, a tired guy named Brett with a mop of hair that couldn't decide what direction to point in, walked over and asked if everything was all right. He didn't sound annoyed. He sounded cautious, careful, like he'd seen moments like this spiral into violence. I told him that the woman on the couch was my fiancée, and I needed to know how she ended up like this. His expression shifted. People who run parties know when they're about to deal with fallout. He didn't try to defend her. He didn't try to lie. He looked at the couch, scratched the back of his neck, leaned closer, and said something I didn't expect. She didn't come with girls. She came with that guy she followed into the room. Words don't physically hit, but it felt like someone kicked my ribs from the inside. I asked where the guy was now, and Brett gestured toward the front porch, saying he thought the guy was getting ready to leave. That was all I needed to hear. I pushed through the crowd, ignoring the comments and side glances. People love watching drama they aren't involved in. It's like free entertainment. When I reached the porch, a tall guy with a buzz cut and a denim jacket was scrolling through his phone quickly, like he was waiting for a ride. He looked up just in time to see me, and something in his expression flickered. Not guilt, Not fear, but recognition. Not of me, but of the situation he knew was coming. I asked him straight out if he arrived with Ariel. It wasn't a soft question. It didn't deserve a soft answer. He nodded slowly and said she invited him earlier in the evening. I asked where they met. He said they'd been at another party before this one. That was the moment the night took its second turn. A second party. Another location she hadn't mentioned. Another lie. I didn't have time to process that new depth of betrayal because someone yelled my name from inside the house. I turned around and saw Mira, the same friend who had texted me earlier. She looked terrified. Not surprised. Terrified. That alone was enough to grab my attention. She rushed forward, whispering that the situation wasn't what it looked like, that everything had gotten out of hand, that Ariel didn't mean anything by it. That phrase alone was a small stab. What exactly was the it that she didn't mean? Before Mira could spin the story further, someone squeezed between us. Nina, the other coworker in their group. She wasn't drunk. She wasn't confused. She was furious. She said something completely different. She said she tried to stop Ariel from doing something stupid, but Ariel insisted she was blowing off steam. The contradictions between Mira and Nina were so sharp they scraped the air. And that's when the house suddenly quieted. A guy holding something in his hand approached me with uncertainty. In his palm was Ariel's phone. Cracked screen. Bent case. It had apparently been found near the backyard fence. Inside the case was a folded slip of paper, a receipt. Not a restaurant bill, not a bar tab, but a motel receipt, dated 2 hours before the party. That wasn't a misunderstanding. That wasn't an accident. That was intentional movement, secret movement, movement meant to stay hidden. I stared at it long enough for the noise in the house to fade into a dull hum. Everything else, the people, the music, the lights, all blurred out. The guy who found the phone backed away slowly like he knew he'd just triggered something unstoppable. The night had already broken once, then twice. Now it cracked completely. Ariel was still unconscious on the couch inside. People were whispering, some filming, some pretending not to. The guy she arrived with was still on the porch. Mira was panicking. Nina was confessing. And in my hand was proof that she hadn't spent the evening eating ramen with coworkers. She had spent it in a motel, with someone, and then ended up here, passed out, alone, humiliated, and caught. There was no point pretending the situation could be salvaged in that moment. But the night wasn't done with me yet. It had more to show, more to twist, more to break open. I walked back into the house, past the crowd, past the couches, past the whispers, and looked down at Ariel, my fiancée, lying there like a stranger I'd met by accident. The night wasn't over, not even close, and it was about to get worse. Much worse. The house didn't feel like a house anymore. It felt like a container pressurized with tension, and every person inside was waiting for someone else to open the valve first. Eyes were following me as I walked back toward the living room, away from the porch confrontation and straight into the center of everything. Ariel hadn't moved. She was still slumped on that couch, breathing unevenly. People who had been laughing minutes ago were now whispering behind their drinks. The video of her dancing was no longer just a clip spreading phone to phone. It had become the live rumor drifting between circles of strangers. I didn't need the video replay. I had already memorized every frame. As I stepped inside, the guy from the porch, the one she arrived with, came after me, trying to talk. He kept explaining that Ariel had said she was single, that she told him she was getting out of something unhealthy. The phrase felt like someone dragging a knife sideways instead of straight down. He wasn't apologizing. He wasn't defending himself. He was simply giving the version she told him, as if that would soften the blow. His tone alone pushed me toward a level of irritation I hadn't hid in years. Not rage. Not wild anger. Something colder. Something steadier. The kind of clarity that shows up when you've run out of illusions. Then a group of girls came running in from the kitchen, their faces red from either alcohol or panic. One of them pointed at me and said I shouldn't make a scene. I didn't even know who she was. She clearly thought she had authority anyway. Before I could respond, Nina stepped in front of her, pushing her back with her palm. Nina wasn't defending Ariel. She wasn't defending me either. She was defending the truth, whatever parts of it she still recognized. She said something that shut the girl up instantly. You weren't even with us tonight. Stop pretending you know anything. Another layer of lies. More contradictions. More strangers pretending to be involved. I moved past them all and crouched next to Ariel. Her dress smelled like spilled drinks and cheap cologne. Not hers. Not mine. Someone else's. Her lipstick was smudged across her cheek, and a faint mark on her collarbone didn't look like a bruise. It looked like a mouth had been there earlier in the night. I called her name. No response. Then I tapped her shoulder. Still nothing. Nina said she had been in and out of consciousness since the dancing. Mira said she had just fallen asleep, shifting the blame on exhaustion. The two of them kept interrupting each other until I finally told both to stop talking and stand back. A guy nearby chimed in, saying he saw Ariel in the kitchen earlier, barely able to walk straight. Another person added that she had been drinking something from her own bag. I asked what that meant. They described a bottle wrapped in a scarf she kept pulling from her purse. Coral wasn't supposed to be at the party, but suddenly she emerged from the hallway looking like someone had punched her pride. She walked straight toward me and tried to take charge, saying she could explain everything. But her tone was wrong, too defensive, too practiced, too much like someone preparing to dodge responsibility. Before she could start spinning answers, her phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced at the screen and froze. That alone was suspicious enough. I didn't know what message she saw, but she closed the phone so quickly it looked like she was trying to hide a burning match. I didn't chase the explanation yet. I didn't need more voices. I needed actions. I scooped Ariel up from the couch. The room gasped like I had just started a fight. I didn't care. She was unconscious, and I wasn't going to leave her there like decoration for people's Instagram stories. But as I lifted her, something small fell out of the fabric near her hip. A tiny, glittery plastic charm, one I didn't recognize. The shape was a small sun with a cracked edge. It didn't belong to her. Not to any of her purses. Not to her jewelry. Someone else had been close enough to her to leave it behind. I pocketed it without saying a word and started carrying her outside. That's when Mira followed me, panicking again, telling me I shouldn't jump to conclusions. Jump to conclusions? After a motel receipt, a video, a blackout, and a guy openly confessing she claimed to be single? The conclusion had already parked itself in front of me with headlights on. But the night wasn't finished turning. As I reached the porch, someone burst out from the side door yelling my name. Brett again. He waved for me to stop, not with anger, but urgency. I asked him what happened. He said one of his roommates had checked the spare bedroom, the one Ariel had followed the two guys toward in the video. The bed inside was a mess. Sheets half hanging off, pillows on the floor, someone's belt under the blanket. And worst of all, a ripped strap from a dress. The strap matched the fabric of Ariel's. I felt something inside me tighten. Not like a snap, more like a screw turning until the metal warped. Brett told me one more detail, one that shifted the entire situation sideways. Someone had tried to clean the room. No idea who. But the trash bin had been emptied, and the sliding window was open wide despite it being close to midnight and freezing outside. Someone had erased something. Not with the intention to hide it from law enforcement, but from me. I didn't stop carrying Ariel. I couldn't talk. I couldn't even breathe properly. The moment I stepped onto the lawn, the guy she arrived with approached again, now insisting he didn't touch her in the room. He was panicking, trying to clear his name. I asked where the second guy went. The one who had also been in the video. The guy with the dark cap. He pointed toward a parked car at the curb. A car that was pulling away quickly, lights off until it reached the end of the street. Someone who didn't want to be confronted had just driven off. That alone created a new layer of dread I didn't have room for yet. I wasn't going to chase a car at 1 a.m. The truth would come in pieces, and right now Ariel was dead weight in my arms, barely breathing. Just when I thought I had collected all the chaos the night had to give, another voice cut through the cold air. It was Troy, a mutual acquaintance. Not a close friend, but someone who always seemed to be nearby in our social circles. He stepped down from the porch, holding something in his hand. A small silver ring. Ariel's ring. The one she always wore on her right hand. Not the engagement ring. Another one. A sentimental piece from her grandmother. It had fallen near the back gate earlier, he said. He found it while people were searching for her phone. Her phone near the gate. Her ring near the gate. A motel receipt in her phone case. A guy admitting she arrived with him. A video of her dancing between two guys. A bedroom with torn fabric. A strap matching her dress. A second guy driving off. None of it pointed to confusion or misunderstanding. This was a pattern, and it wasn't a one-time mistake. I opened the car door and laid Ariel inside. Her breathing hitched, and she murmured something that didn't form words, just sounds. I leaned back, closing the door halfway, when someone tapped my shoulder. It was Nina again. She wasn't avoiding me. She wasn't defending Ariel. Her eyes were wet, and she was trembling from something she hadn't admitted earlier. She said tonight wasn't the first time something like this had happened. Ariel had been different for months. Reckless. Secretive. And that motel receipt wasn't from the first time she'd been in that part of town. Nina said she'd tried confronting her about it last week, but Ariel told her to mind her own life. Mira had been covering for her the whole time, lying for her when she couldn't cover herself. Then Nina lowered her voice and confessed one more piece of the night's timeline. Ariel had begged them earlier not to tell me she was at the party because she didn't want me ruining the mood. That phrase wasn't a slip. It was something she had said confidently while stumbling into the house. Ariel had made plans that didn't include me, and they ended exactly where she didn't expect anyone to find her. I didn't talk. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. My mind was too full of sharp, mismatched pieces, and there was no space left for emotional theatrics. I closed the car door. The party behind me was swelling again, like the drama had recharged everyone's curiosity. Someone laughed. Someone filmed. Someone whispered just loud enough for people to hear. But the night wasn't done. Not by a long shot. As I started the engine, my phone buzzed with a new notification. A message from an unknown number. Attached was a 30-second clip. A clip taken at a different location. A clip from earlier that same night. A clip showing Ariel stepping out of a motel room with someone who definitely wasn't the two guys from the party. Someone older. Someone familiar. Someone I'd seen around her workplace. And that clip didn't come from a stranger. It came from the coworker she claimed was stuck at home with a cold. Qley. The person who had been acting nervous the entire night. The night had split open once. Twice. 3 times. But this was the part where everything became something else entirely. And the next part, the morning after, was waiting for me like it had been planning its own attack. I didn't sleep when I got home. I didn't get close. I laid Ariel in the guest room, covered her with a blanket, and sat in the hallway with the door cracked open just enough to watch her chest rise and fall. It was the only part of her that kept moving. Everything else, the trust, the foundation, the promises, stayed frozen like the house had paused itself to decide what happens next. The clip Qley sent replayed in my mind with the stubbornness of a bad habit. Ariel stepping out of a motel room with someone older, someone familiar, someone she shouldn't have been anywhere near unless she had a reason she never planned to share with me. The timestamp didn't lie. 30 minutes before she went to the first party. 90 minutes before the second. She wasn't drifting into mistakes. She was running a schedule. By morning, she was still unconscious. Her makeup had streaked across the pillow. Her hair smelled like someone else's cologne. Her phone was still cracked. I checked to see if she needed a doctor, but her breathing was steady enough. She wasn't in danger, just far away from the life she had promised we would share. At 8, someone knocked on the front door like they were pounding on a police interrogation window. I opened it and saw the last person I wanted to deal with this early, the guy from the porch, Ivan. He didn't look drunk anymore. He looked hungover in a way that made his guilt sit heavy on his shoulders. He asked if she got home safe, which was a bold question for someone who had watched her dance between 2 guys. I didn't invite him in. I didn't need more involvement. But he wasn't there to talk about the dancing. He said the second guy, the one who drove off, had messaged their group chat around sunrise. The message wasn't an apology or a confession. It was a warning. The second guy claimed someone had filmed them earlier in the night doing something they weren't proud of. Something involving Ariel in the house bathroom that Ariel wouldn't remember. Something he didn't want anyone else to know existed. My hands went cold. Another clip. Another angle. Another part of the night I hadn't seen. I asked what exactly the message said. Ivan scrolled quickly and held out his phone. The text was there, short and panicked. Whoever took the bathroom footage, delete it. I'm serious. Bathroom. Footage. Threats. This wasn't a single mistake. This was the night peeling itself back like old wallpaper, revealing mold underneath. Every piece connected to something I didn't want to imagine, and yet imagination had become pointless because the truth was crawling out on its own. Ivan apologized again. He said he would cooperate with whatever I decided to do, but I didn't want anything from him except distance. I closed the door without another word. Ariel groaned from the guest room, a low sound like someone waking after being shaken from underwater. I walked in and stood beside the bed. She blinked slowly, eyes unfocused, face pale under smudged eyeliner. She looked around like she didn't recognize the room, then saw me and jolted like she had woken inside a consequence she didn't expect. She asked where she was. Then she asked what time it was. Then she asked why she wasn't wearing her ring. Not the engagement ring, the silver one from her grandmother. The one Troy had found by the back gate. I placed it on the nightstand. She stared at it like it belonged to someone else. Then she asked the question I expected her to ask. What happened? And the way she asked it, hesitant, searching for a lifeline, told me she was trying to piece together a version of the night that placed her in the best light possible. I didn't soften anything. I didn't dramatize anything. I told her she had passed out on a couch at a college party she wasn't supposed to attend. I told her a video of her dancing with 2 guys had circulated through the house. I told her her phone had been found near a fence. I told her about the receipt. Her face paled further. She kept searching for a narrative she could cling to, something that could make this feel like a misunderstanding rather than a betrayal. Her first attempt was to blame the alcohol. Her second attempt was to blame the friends. Her third attempt was to blame stress. But none of those explanations could bend the motel receipt, the video, the confession, or the fact that a second clip existed. I told her about the motel, about Qley, about the older man, and something in Ariel's expression shifted, not fear, Not remorse, but calculation. She wasn't reacting to the betrayal. She was reacting to the logistics. She wasn't thinking about me. She was thinking about how many pieces of her story had already cracked. She stood up too quickly, stumbled, and caught herself on the dresser. She said she needed water. I handed her a bottle. She took 2 sips, and then placed it down like the bottle was suddenly too heavy for her hand. She said she didn't remember anything past the first drink, which was impossible because she had been filmed dancing after that. She said the motel was a misunderstanding, which was the weakest phrase anyone could use to describe booking a room with someone who wasn't their fiancé. Before I could respond, someone rang the front doorbell. Not a polite ring. A push the button and lean on it kind of ring. The kind someone uses when they're too angry or too emotional to wait. I opened the door and found 2 more people I didn't expect. Ariel's parents. Her mother looked like she had already cried. Her father looked like he hadn't slept. They had been contacted by someone, Nina most likely, who told them what happened. They asked where Ariel was. I stepped aside. Ariel tried to pull herself together when they entered the hallway, but her parents walked straight past her and went into the living room, demanding explanations from both of us. They weren't quiet. They weren't gentle. They wanted the truth, and they wanted it immediately. Ariel panicked, turning to me with wide eyes like she expected me to cover for her. She asked me quietly to say it was a misunderstanding. She asked me to tell them she had gotten too drunk and lost control. She asked me to soften the details. I didn't. I told her parents everything. Every piece. Every event. Every contradiction. I kept it factual without embellishment. Her mother covered her mouth as I talked. Her father stared at Ariel like he was trying to figure out whether the daughter he raised was the same person standing in front of him. Ariel interrupted repeatedly, insisting she didn't remember. Her father made her sit. He asked her why she was at a party when she told them she had a dinner with co-workers. She didn't answer. He asked about the motel. She didn't answer. He asked about the older man. She didn't answer. She only said, "It's not what it looks like," which was the kind of answer people give when they have nothing left to offer. Her mother said a sentence that froze all 3 of us. "This isn't the first time, is it?" Ariel flinched. That flinch was enough. Her parents had suspected something. They didn't know the details, but they had felt the shift, the secretiveness, the excuses, the late nights she couldn't explain, the sudden need for space. The new coworker she spent too much time with. I realized then that I wasn't the only one being lied to. Ariel broke. Not with tears. With anger. She shouted that everyone was ganging up on her, that the night had gotten out of hand, that people always expected too much of her. She said she needed freedom. She said she felt trapped. She said the night wasn't her fault. Her father asked if she was planning to marry me while seeing someone else. She didn't answer. Silence can cut deeper than anything spoken. Then came the twist I wasn't expecting. Not from a stranger. From her mother. She asked why Ariel had been researching apartments in another neighborhood. She asked why Ariel had been asking about moving timelines. She asked why Ariel was planning something without telling anyone. Ariel didn't look surprised that her mother knew, which meant she had already made plans to leave. Not after the wedding. Not after a conversation. She was preparing to leave once something better stabilized. And the something better wasn't me. The weight of that realization didn't land all at once. It spread through me like cold water down the spine. Ariel wasn't fighting to save anything. She was fighting to protect a narrative she wished she had maintained. She had been planning an exit long before the night fell apart. Her father stood up and told her she needed help. Not a lecture. Not comfort. Professional help. She laughed, a hollow, brittle sound that broke halfway through. He didn't argue with her. He just looked at me and said he was sorry. Then he walked out the door. Her mother followed. Ariel sank onto the couch like someone watching the last pillar fall. But the consequences weren't finished with her yet. Not even close. Because within an hour, the coworker, the older man from the motel, showed up on my porch demanding to talk to her. That was when the night turned into something even worse. The knock on the door wasn't hesitant. It wasn't polite. It wasn't unsure. It was the kind of knock someone uses when they think they have authority they never earned. I opened the door and saw him standing there. The older coworker from the motel video. Crisp shirt. Hairstyled too neatly for a Saturday morning. That odd mix of arrogance and panic that doesn't hide well on men like him. He asked for Ariel like he had every right to cross my threshold. I didn't let him inside. I stepped out, closing the door behind me with the kind of quiet that tells someone the conversation won't end with a handshake. He said Ariel had texted him the night before about coming by to talk, and he wanted to see if she was okay. That alone gave me a sharp look at what their relationship actually was. Routine, casual, expected. Not a thrill. A rhythm. Something that had been happening long before I realized anything was off. I asked him how long it had been going on. He didn't answer with a timeline. He answered with a shrug, like the details didn't matter because in his mind, The betrayal was already carved in stone. He said it started casually, which was the kind of phrase people use when they want to avoid the weight of meaning. Casual, repeating, familiar, predictable, a system, a pattern she built behind my back. He wasn't guilty. He wasn't devastated. He wasn't apologetic. He was irritated that the night had blown up and dragged him into consequences he hadn't planned for. He said she had been unhappy for a while. I didn't need him to define unhappy. I had seen the motel receipt. I had seen the video. I had seen her friends contradict each other. Her unhappiness had turned into someone else's opportunity long before she realized I was catching up to all the pieces. I told him she wasn't seeing anyone today. He said she owed him an explanation. I told him explanations weren't part of her skill set at the moment. He told me to get out of the way. I stepped forward instead. He tried to stand his ground, but men who hide behind secrets don't hold themselves well face to face. His shoulders tightened. His voice thinned. The confidence he walked up with didn't stick around once the door was closed behind me. I didn't threaten him. I didn't shout. I didn't touch him. I just told him he needed to leave before Ariel woke up and tried to use him to dodge responsibility again. He said I was overreacting. I told him he wasn't staying. He left, not because I forced him physically, but because the situation no longer left room for illusions. His role in her life, whatever it had been, had just hit its expiration date. I watched him walk down the driveway, shoulders stiff, jaw clenched. People like him don't like being rejected by the circumstances they helped create. He'd feel it later, when he realized this wasn't ending quietly. When I went back inside, Ariel was sitting in the hallway near the guest bedroom, knees pulled up to her chest like she had finally lost the sense of balance she held on to during the entire confrontation with her parents. She didn't look devastated. She looked cornered. Reality had begun carving borders around her that she couldn't escape with excuses. She asked who was at the door. I told her. Her face twitched, not with shame, but with the frustration of someone who realized a secret had leaked out ahead of schedule. She asked if he said anything. I didn't repeat his words. I simply said it was clear the situation went far deeper than one drunken night. She apologized, but not like someone who understood the depth of what she destroyed. She apologized like someone performing damage control. She apologized out of habit, not remorse. Her voice didn't break. Her tone didn't shift. It was the same practiced tone she used when she spilled coffee or missed a meeting. She asked if we could talk. I sat across from her, not close enough for comfort, not far enough for avoidance. She said she didn't want things to end. She said she made mistakes. She said she would fix them. I didn't interrupt her. I let her speak until she ran out of prepared lines. When she finally went silent, she expected me to negotiate, to soften, to ask for explanations, to meet her halfway. I didn't. I told her the engagement was over. Her face stayed blank for a moment, as if the words didn't land. Then something in her eyes tightened, not sadness, not regret, but disbelief that the consequences she had outrun for months finally stopped her. She stood, shaky but angry. She said I was being dramatic. She said I should consider the history we had. She said nobody's perfect. She said relationships go through phases. Every sentence chipped another layer off whatever she thought she deserved. I told her plainly she had the freedom she claimed to want. She could live whatever life she had been planning behind my back. She said she would explain everything. I said explanations wouldn't change the motel, or the video, or the bathroom clip, or the fact that her coworker had shown up at my door demanding time with her. She started crying then, not quiet tears, but the kind people use when they realize control is slipping. Her voice cracked not from hurt, but from panic. She said she was losing everything at once. I told her she wasn't losing everything. She was losing the parts of her life she chose to gamble. I told her parents already knew. I told her the guy from the porch had confessed she claimed to be single. I told her people at the party were sharing the video. Her world wasn't collapsing because I ended the engagement. It was collapsing because she built it on lies fragile enough to shatter in a single night. She didn't argue anymore. She sat back down, staring at the floor. The silence between us didn't soften. It solidified. By noon, her parents returned with a car. They helped her pack. Not angrily. Not coldly. With the heavy, exhausted quiet of people who realized they couldn't shield her from consequences she created herself. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't ask for another chance. She walked out carrying a single suitcase, shoulders low, face hidden behind her hair. When the door closed, the house finally felt still again. But the fallout didn't stop there. Her coworkers found out within days. The older man's girlfriend found the motel receipts in his email and ended their relationship. The guy from the porch was suspended from his sports team after someone sent the video to his coach. Coral tried to deny she had lied, but eventually broke down and admitted she'd covered for Ariel's double life because she didn't want to lose her job referral. Their entire friend circle split down the middle, half blaming Ariel for the chaos, half pretending nothing serious happened. Ariel dropped out of her internship after the supervisor confronted her about the video. Her parents cut financial support until she agreed to meet with a counselor. The guy who fled the party disappeared from their social group completely. I didn't chase any of them. I didn't explain myself to anyone. I didn't broadcast the story. I didn't build revenge scenarios. I simply stepped back and let the consequences hit the people who had earned them. 3 months later, I heard through mutual friends that Ariel had tried applying for a job where one of the party guests worked. Her application was rejected, not because anyone was spiteful, because her behavior had become a cautionary story inside their circle, a reminder that secrets have the lifespan of wet paper. As for me, I didn't collapse. I didn't hide. I didn't drown in anything. I just rebuilt. Slowly. Simply. Quietly. Sometimes endings don't roar. They don't explode. They don't tear through the sky. Sometimes they just remove the weight that was breaking you without you even knowing it.